Cedar of Lebanon. It's a beautiful tree, huh, Eric?
I will not fear the terror by night, nor the arrow that flies by day. For you have commanded your angels on high to guard me in all my ways. Under the shadow of your wings, abiding in the shelter they bring. Day by day I find shelter from the world, under the shadow of your wings.
So I guess we're going to talk about Psalms 91.
That's part of a song from Psalms 91 that the worship leader down at the Hiding Place in West LA under the pastorship of Henry Catrona wrote that. Little variation of some of the words. But the point is, you know, we're told about the cedars of Lebanon. Just stout, spectacular. Solomon used the wood for building ships that went around the world, from what we understand, back in about 1000 BC era. Became known as the Phoenicians, but nevertheless, that's one of those trees. And here's a beautiful day.
Indeed it is.
Here in Sonora, California, but
Psalms 91's becoming quite popular right now, isn't it?
Psalms 91, yeah. You know, it's
one of those smorgasbord psalms.
How so?
Well, the Christians are grabbing that, but at the same time they're, don't go near Psalms 119, but Psalms 91 applies to us for sure.
Well, who does Psalm 91 apply to? You know, it's every verse, there's 16 verses in Psalms 91, and every verse seems to talk about a promise of protection, refuge, deliverance, hope that's accessible to whoever wants to grab it. So why not? What is there to restrict anybody's access? I mean, depending on whatever religion, whatever philosophy, whatever culture, isn't Psalms 91 available to whoever wants it?
Terms and conditions may apply.
Where does it say that?
Well, other places in the Psalms.
Well, let's talk about Psalm 91. Let me grab a book. So, just so people know what I'm doing, this is Stone's Tanakh. It's a little used, but you see, it's got the Hebrew on one side, and it's got the English on the other. And again, I don't give a total regard to this English translation. I do give a total regard to this copy of the Hebrew writing, but as you'll notice, they're in modern Hebrew. There's nothing wrong with that. From what I understand, these are the exact modern Hebrew, as the exact same letters as the Paleo Hebrew, going all the way back to when Moshe, or whoever wrote this, perhaps David was 1000 BC. Moses was 500 years earlier, 1500 BC. See, it says here, whoever sits, whoever. See the way it's written here? Yod Shin Bet. Yod Shin Bet. Well, the Yod is a prefix meaning he will, kind of this future tense. And Shin Bet is the word for sit, or dwell, or return, or repent. Another form of the word Yod Shin Bet is actually Shin Bet Tav, which is to say it's also in Deuteronomy 30. Here, let me look that up real quick, just so you see. Deuteronomy 30, I've mentioned quite a few times, and it's really pertinent to present tense. It will be, verse 1, when all these things come upon you, the blessing and the curse that I have presented before you, that you will take it to your heart. among all the nations where Yahweh your Elohim has dispersed you, and you will return unto Yahweh your Elohim and listen to his voice according to everything I command you today, you and your children with all your heart and all your soul. Talked about that in the last video. But here it says, and you will return, but it's spelled Hey Shin Bet Tav. I thought that was the word Shabbat, but see it says Shin Bet Tav is translated, you will return unto Yahweh with all your heart, Lavev Ka. And here this word here, again, Shin Bet Tav. And so when I first saw this, when I didn't even know how to read Hebrew, but it's like, hey, that's the word Shabbat, but I don't see the word Shabbat in English. It's because you will take it to your heart. But that's also, hey, Shin Bet Tav. You will take it to your heart. Shin Bet Tav. Take what to your heart? So my thinking, I'm just trying to tell you how I look at this stuff, is that could that mean that when we take the Shabbat to our heart, that's the proof, that's the evidence that we're actually regarding Yahuwah's instructions?
Shouldn't it be written on our heart?
If you take it to your heart, I would imagine then you'd write it on your heart. It's like you have symbol on your shirt and a symbol on your hat, some writing, but you had to first have a regard for it and then put the emblem. Then, so it's like, well, is it a staging of first this, then this, then this? And it's like, but the point is, you can't even regard it and take it to your heart, much less write it on your heart, unless you hear it. Faith comes through hearing. Yahuwah told Moshe, speak to Aaron and his sons, say to them, and he gave him these words. Certainly there's something valuable about writing it down, but he told Moshe to speak to the people. So there's some videos I've made where I've got the whiteboard and I write things down. Let me go grab this other paper. And what I do is I write these things down and I analyze word for word, page after page. It's all writing things down. And
So that's what you do.
that's what I spend a lot of time doing, But this is Isaiah 29. Maybe we'll get into that in another video. But the thing is, you can't make any sense of this stuff, so I'll have to interpret it for you. But it's hearing the words. There's something about that. Well, the interesting thing about Yod Shin Bet is that it also, if you look in the Ernest Klein's dictionary, Shin Bet or Yod Shin Bet means to explain or to set the mind at ease. We're right at pretty close to the beginning of what looks like it could be a day of quarantine. Oh no, then they changed it to a week. Oh no, a couple weeks, a couple months. The mayor of New York City said it's now going to be
8 months.
8 months of a mandatory quarantine. Well, that means all the businesses are going out of business. All the food's going to be off the shelves. You're going to have gas for your car. You're going to have electricity. How are you going to pay your bills? How are you going to pay your mortgage? It's enough to drive you insane thinking about projecting what might happen. But today, this tree's not worrying about it. And Yahweh says something about us being like these cedars of Lebanon, or his promises of helping us who are his people to flourish like a cedar of Lebanon, a forest of these trees. These hillsides aren't worrying, the clouds aren't worrying, those birds aren't worrying, but we're worrying because we've got words sending us into a frenzy. I hear it all the time on the radio and on the internet and say, whoa, what am I listening to? What am I listening to? Very interesting. What I found is that when I sit and dwell with my mind on these letters, these words, there's only 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. We went through in just the last video explaining how every letter means something. The pair of the letters means something. Put the letters in triplets of verb roots, the way the Semitic language works, and it speaks of Yeshua. The word Yeshua is not only salvation, but Shasha. Some girls are named Shasha. It means delight. pleasant and delightful, shua. The word shua, it says in the dictionary, is a cry for help. Yahshua means Yah, help. And he sends Yeshua, to save us, save, help, redeem, deliver. But this word Shavat, Yeshuv, what good does it do to return to Shabbat? You regard the Shabbat, don't you?
Yeah.
Now,
It could be any day, though.
but did any benefit happen once you started regarding Shabbat compared to the days when you had no regard of the Shabbat?
Everybody I've talked to said that was the key that opened the door. And then when you see that verse where it said, it was Sabbath when Messiah made the clay and put it in his eyes and opened his eyes. Well, that's a spiritual lesson right there.
There's something about starting to do what he said just because he said it, though you don't feel it, though you don't see it, though you don't get it, though you don't even necessarily agree, or though it doesn't even necessarily align with your doctrines, or though it doesn't necessarily even jive with what you hear preached from the pulpit or that you read in your books. But to just do what he said.
It's a precious key. It really is.
Something opens. Something happens. Why I'm elaborating is because that's the first word of Psalm 91, is he who returns, repents. To repent is not just stop what you're doing, but it means to go back and do what he said. That's the real meaning of the word repent. Go back to what he said, like we read in Deuteronomy 30, verse 1.
Find that ancient path.
Find the ancient path. The word paleo is a word that's the same whether it's English, Greek, or Hebrew. It means from antiquity, Paleolithic, ancient writing, primordial, it means to be hidden, it means to be wonderful, marvelous, to be this great mystery. Couple different variations of the spelling of the word, but it's basically Pei Lamed Aleph or Pei Lamed Hey or Pei Lamed Yod with different suffix. And then in Psalm 119, verse 18, open my eyes that I may see the incredible hidden mysteries. There's a nun put in front of it, but still the root word, the three-letter verb root is Pei Lamed Aleph. In fact, if you put the nun, you get Nephal, which is where you get the word Nephilim, which is these giants or to have fallen. Once you start studying the language, there's all these different things going on. That's another subject. But what we're going to do here is look at these words. So if you give the value of he will, shin bet, yod shin bet, it's translated he who sits. Well, we read it's whoever. It's like whoever dwells or sits. Then it says bet Samik Tav Resh. Well, bet is a prefix that means in, and then Samik Tav Resh means hidden, concealed, secret, hiding place. I opened this video with singing a song from the hiding place, the church I went to in L.A., where I met Karen, my wife. Bet Het Shin Aleph also means hiding place.
Wait a minute. Karen's a California girl?
She's an Aussie. Met her in California. But the point is, this word sitar, Samik Tav Resh, also means pull down, refute, destroy, and contradicted. And I can tell you, there's quite a few people that would like to refute and contradict what I'm saying. Interestingly enough, the Paleo Hebrew was hidden, concealed, pulled down, and destroyed by Yahweh himself. And I believe, as I've said before, that the archangel Gavriel, which means the mighty hero of Elohim, or the strong, powerful, the champion angel, told Daniel in Daniel 12, hide the word, seal the book until the time of the end, until the time they wake up. Okay, lock it up, close it. And then in Isaiah 29, the thing that we might talk about in another video here, he says, take the sealed book. Of course, it wasn't necessarily the same one of Daniel because it was a different era, but nevertheless, take the sealed book, it says in verse, I think it's verse 14 or 12. Anyway, give it to the literate man and say, read this, please. And he says, I can't read it. It's a sealed book. Take the sealed book and give it to the illiterate man. And the illiterate man says, Lo yadati sefer. I'm illiterate. I can't read. I don't know books. But in looking at the Paleo letters, you can read what the sealed book says. And that's a thing that I've done with other people. I did it in Sarnia a few years back, and that's another subject. But the point is, how can the man who sits or repents or returns have his mind at ease with an explanation if it's hidden and sealed? What's this talking about? He who sits in the hidden or sealed, the contradicted or refuted hiding place? And then it says Elion. Melchizedek came to meet Abraham. Abraham, it says, had a regard or a worship for, didn't say Yahweh, it says El Shaddai. But Melchizedek was the priest of El Elyon. El, Aleph Lamed, Elyon, Ayin Lamed, Yod Vav Nun. It's translated God Most High. In fact, the airline of Israel is El Al. Aleph Lamed, Ayin Lamed. It's short for God Most High, or the most highest airline. But the interesting thing is this Most High what? So for us to say, he who sits in the refuge or the hiding place of the Most High, but the word the and of isn't on here. So the word Elyon could be a qualifier of the sitar. He who returns to what has been hidden by the Most High. And then the next word is bet zadi lamed, which means roast or put in an oven or shaded under the covering of an umbrella. And then there's the word Shaddai. Well, that's like El Shaddai. It means almighty. But Shaddai also means demon, an evil demon. Or it could mean, if you had a cannon up here, like Guns of Navarone, there was a movie, an event that happened in World War II. The Germans had these giant guns that would just blast anything that approached. That's a picture of Shaddai, to devastate with overwhelming force. Shaddai. Then the last word in this verse is Yod Tav Lamed Vav Nun Nun. Well, Tav Lamed is a tel, like Tel Aviv. Tav Lamed Vav is to suspend or be an uncertainty. Lamed Vav Nun is to lodge or pass the night. Tav Lamed Yod Nun is a hangman or executioner. Tav Lamed Vav Yod is dependent on one hanger. To hang something, like a hangman or executioner, hanging on one thing. Well, there's the picture we talked about the other day of the ornament between your eyes, like this little water droplet, remember?
How's it sound? There you go.
A little drop of water, like a pendant, hanging on a thin little thread. The thin tapered end of the water droplet hanging just about to drop, but almost like a chrysalis of a butterfly. So what's this saying? What am I getting to? Those are all the words in this first verse. He who sits or repents and returns to what Yahweh commanded, Deuteronomy 30, to set his mind at ease in the secret hiding place, though it's been refuted and contradicted by theologians for a couple thousand years, it's the Elyon. It is the Most High that's been covered, and that if we are dependent on the one hanger, which is El Shaddai, the mindset of utter dependency as a child, that same word, tet tet pei, tet tet, which was tet tet pei, lamed tet tet pei, that's the word for drip or droplet, is to walk mincingly as a child, teetering and tottering, just about, not real stable, but it's to be as a child who can barely do it, but to be utterly dependent on Shaddai, on the fact that El Shaddai, in fact, the word Tav Lamed Yod Vav Nun means a medallion or a pendant, very similar to that ornament between your eyes. So in your own understanding, though you're like a little child, you really don't know these words, we're illiterate, we don't really get it, but there's pictures, and like you teach little children by looking at pictures, all the Paleo letters are pictures. And for us to sit there and say, just sit down, put your mind at ease, and return to the words that he spoke to Moses, Deuteronomy 30. And he says, when you come back to these words, seek me with all your heart and all your soul. You'll be like sitting in an oven under an umbrella in the shade of the Almighty's protected place, hiding place. But he's also had these words hidden in a protected hiding place. And we'll bump into some of those meanings in a little bit, a few verses later. But the only way to do this is as a little child who is absolutely and completely dependent on his parents. I picture that little ornament hanging by the tapered edge, a water drop. You might fall. Little child learning to walk, you might fall. But you have to have such confidence in these words, these 22 letters, that you're perfectly at peace. Set your mind at ease. These words are true. But what if we got a wrong translation? Oh no, what if all we have is English? Listen, the reason we're making these videos is to show you what's written in these words. And the understanding, see the word Most High, Ayin, Lamed, Yod, Vav, Nun. Ayin is an eye of, the word ayin, literally in Hebrew, literally means look, consider, weigh, measure, balance exactly. Attend to this with your best scrutiny possible. It's a picture of scales of balance where you put things in and you got to get it just exact. Lamed Yod Vav Nun is how we would pronounce the word lion. But it literally means yoked to the ultimate, highest, beyond even our ability to get it. But we have to regard the fact that, as I was saying in the last video, I believe that the creator of the universe gave us these words, gave us these letters, gave us these concepts, and though we've never heard about them, we've never been taught about them, though they've been completely out of reach, our refuge is in taking it to heart that they're absolutely true, that they are absolutely the place of our refuge and strength, because the Creator himself backs up every word and every letter, because he's the guy that designed them. He's the guy that built them. He's the guy that built this universe in correspondence to them. He's the one who built and designed the psyche, the psychology, the functioning mind of the human being to fit these and engage these letters like a hand fits into a glove, or walking hand in hand. The Aleph-Bet song. Yod, the hand of he who formed my hand to hold on to his, the Torah, his words. If we engage these words and these letters, not as one who is illiterate, says, I can't understand it, we can understand it, because our minds, our consciousness, the physiological brain, as well as the psychological way the brain processes, is all fit to these 22 Hebrew letters. It's not foreign, it's innate. We are built to engage the meaning of these letters, though they've been hidden. The Hebrew letters. Greek came out of Hebrew, Latin came out of Greek, English came out of the Latin. It all goes back to these Hebrew letters. It's not a foreign thing. Don't tell yourself it's foreign. I'm telling you so that you can tell yourself this is not too hard for you. You can comprehend this, learn this. Whether you learn the whole thing or not is not the point. Whether you get the point of it is the point. Whether, like the point of the water drop. Take it to heart. Second verse. Amer la Yahweh machasi. The word Amer means to speak or declare. La Yahweh, is that to Yahweh? Is it by Yahweh? Is it about Yahweh? Is it for Yahweh? Or is it by the authority of Yahweh? Because the Lamed is a shepherd's staff that speaks of authority. It's all of those things. And now you have to sit there and say, what is this really saying? It might say, Yahweh has declared, but that doesn't necessarily mean what it says. Aleph Mem Resh. Amer. Well, it's translated to utter, to declare, to speak. The word deber is also to speak. But this means, I can read this and say Aleph, Aleph Mem Resh. Aleph means I will as a prefix. Aleph Mem means if or on the condition. Resh is the exalted one, to be of unhonored status, to be resurrected. I will meditate. Mem is to take it into my heart. I will meditate on success, on victory, on what it means to resurrect. You know, we're going through a time of a great depression, of a great lockdown, of a great quarantine. Well, Israel has gone through a great quarantine of 2,730 years, and here we are coming out the other side. Yeshua went into a great quarantine in the crypt of the grave. For 3 days and 3 nights, he resurrected and came out the other side as the Resh man. Jonah went into the great quarantine of the belly of a fish for 3 days and 3 nights, and he came out the other side as a highly regarded prophet. From what I understand, the Ninevites actually regarded Dagon, the fish dagon it. That's actually, you know, people say that in the hills of America, dagon it. But that's actually the name of the fish deity, because the word dag is fish.
The Pope hat.
In Hebrew. And they wear the mitred hat of the popes and bishops and the cardinals is exactly the head of a fish.
Yep.
They used to take the head of a fish and have the back end of the fish hanging down, and that was the outfit of the pagan priests. And the Catholic Church has taken it over for centuries, and that's what they wear. All right. Ve'amer la Yahweh. You could say, I will meditate on the promise that I will get through this thing victoriously, successfully, because Yahweh said so. Lamed Yahweh. See, I can read these words and it doesn't necessarily have to match the way that any other translation tells me. King James, NIV, ISR, Stone's Tanakh, they're not necessarily right, which is why you get so many translations, because even the professional translators change it up. So I'm telling you, you can look at each one of these letters, we went through it the other day, and read this, and then you have the word mem, chet samek yod. Well, this is the word for shelter. Machas, chesed, is the word for pity or tender loving kindness. There's no dalet here, but the word ches, literally in the dictionary, it means lettuce, like you eat in a salad. Well, this is the place of lettuce? How is that my refuge? Well, maybe I could say, well, if you eat lettuce, it's good for you, especially the dark lettuces, romaine, or maybe kale or cabbage. It's like, is it talking about lettuce, or is it talking about the picture of lettuce? Well, who is the picture of a head of lettuce a refuge for? Maybe of a hungry vegetarian, but also maybe a little bug that wants to hide in it many layers deep. Beautiful picture of pink clouds there. Why don't you swing the camera over and let them just kind of get a little glimpse here. And we're right at sunset here on the, this is the 22nd day of March.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's the 23rd. It's supposed to be the day where the coronavirus blossoms to its full lethality, lethally toxic. But here we are proclaiming the great virtues of our Elohim, Yahuwah. Mem is a womb, so you could say the womb of my shelter, like a head of lettuce is to a bug. I will meditate, I will declare, I will speak of the authority of Yahuwah, the creator of the heavens and the earth, to provide me refuge. But people say, Mem is chaos. Chaos? Mem is the refuge in the midst of the chaos. Mem is water. What I'm saying is that you hear different voices telling you what these letters mean. You hear different voices explaining to you how to interpret these words. But if you ponder the meaning of the letters and you return to what Yahweh said, you'll find a peace. You'll find a shalom. You'll find a shuv. You'll find an ease of the mind. The next word here is Vav Mem, Zadi Vav Dalet Tav Yod. Zadi Vav Dalet, Zod means captured. Mem Zadi Vav Dalet is a hunting net. Mem Zadi Vav Dalet. Dalet means charming, captivating, enticing. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's an enticing shelter to meditate and find refuge in his word. It's where you get the word Mem Zadi Dalet for fortress, stronghold, Masada, the place over in Israel. The dictionary says it's a bypass, a shunt, diverted, because Zadi Dalet means to the side of. If you get a shunt put in for people who have to have surgery on their spinal column or even in their heart, it's the same word, but this is away from being captured by the hunting net. Is this a refuge from somebody else's hunting net, or is this to be captured by Yahweh? So once you see these words and you realize in Hebrew you can have, like the word Pesach. Pesach means to jump over, but you look in the dictionary and the same exact word, Pesamechet, means to be lame, crippled, so you can't jump, stuck in a wheelchair. So what is it? Is it to be able to jump or not able to jump? It's both. Is it the blessing or the curse? It's both. Hebrew works in such a way that you can read the positive, the negative, the blessing, the curse, multiple different levels. Those are just two levels, but multiple different ways you can read this. So you have to, or you get to, ponder the language. Ponder the language. Step outside. Muse. Meditate. Muse, that's a bad word. There's a Greek goddess by the name of the Muses. You say, wait a minute. Amusement, that must be a bad word too. And it's like, to meditate, to ponder, to consider, to let the Ruach, the wind, the Spirit, speak to you. These are all in these words. And I know that some people, rightly so, say, don't even mention the word muse, because that's this Greek deity. Like the word holy is a deity from India, splashing colored chalk, and it's a beautiful celebration, but it's a pagan deity. And it's like, wow, can we not speak English words? Well, if you want to learn more Hebrew words, it'll take out some of the English words, but how do we communicate? English is filled with references of deities and other doctrines and other worldviews of how did the world even get here. And it's like, well, if we're going to try to communicate and understand what Yahweh says, and we happen to speak in English, and I'm taking these Hebrew words and putting them into English, some words are going to be mentioned that other people don't like being mentioned. I apologize for that. I'm not trying to name the deity and tell the story about that deity. But a lot of English words use, like even the word air, that comes from a Greek deity. The point is, when he says, don't even let their names come out of your mouth, the word is Shem for name. And say, well, don't even speak the word like God, Gimel Dalet, Canaanite deity of fortune and luck. I'm not going to tell you any more about the story. If I mention the name of the Norse god of war, we not should do that. But if I elaborate on his life, on his prowess, on his stories, if I go on and on and on and on about it, when I was in the LA Baptist High School, we learned about the Greek and Roman gods. We never learned about Yahweh, never learned his name, never learned about his day, never learned about his Moedim of Leviticus 23, never learned about the blessing and the curse of Deuteronomy 30, never learned about the 2030-year curse of Leviticus 26 and Ezekiel 4, never learned about the second Exodus that he talks about that's going to happen, where he's going to gather us up from where he scattered us and bring us back into the land. Never learned any of that. But all that stuff is Yahweh's Shem. Never learned about his language, never learned about his alphabet, because all that is Yahweh's Shem. His name, fame, renown, and reputation. So if I sit there and say, to know what these letters mean, to know how to read these words illiterately by putting the letters together to reverse engineer the spelling of these words, one letter at a time, in two-letter pairs, three-letter verb roots, looking at the dictionary, look at the original scriptures. Any grade school kid could do this. Any high school kid could do this. But they don't even teach this in the Christian seminaries and colleges, from what I'm told.
Learn the Greek.
They do it with the Greek, but even in English, you got prefixes, suffixes, you got verb tenses, and you got the basic verb. It's not that hard. But they don't do it, so we're doing it on these videos. And we're not charging anybody. We're giving them away to the world for free because this stuff is too valuable to put a price tag on, literally, which is why the Erectology class was live streamed for free around the world back in 2011. My point is, if you want to look at these words mean, and I'm suggesting that by knowing every letter and reading them, that you understand what Yahweh's saying, and that for the sake of contemplating these words is the place of our refuge and strength, then though he says in the English translation, whoever wants to sit in the secret refuge of the Most High will be secure, how do you do that? How do you do that? You do that from within. And you can do that based on the English translation, but the English translation just might steer you wrong. But if you trust the meaning of these Hebrew letters and these Hebrew words, it cannot steer you wrong. But what if you misinterpret the Hebrew letters? You might get off base, so you better contemplate it and get together with your friends. Malachi 3:16, where Yahweh says he noticed that people got together and contemplated Yahweh's Shem, his name. So he said, hey, grabbed one of his angels and said, hey, write down the names of those guys that are sitting there contemplating my shame, write them in a book, and the day that I reveal my greatest treasure, you'll see the difference between those who have a regard for righteousness and a regard for wickedness, a regard for my name and a regard for people who couldn't care less, who consider it a whatever, distraction, don't got time. You'll see, one of these days you'll see the way to really consider Yahuwah's words. The next word here is Aleph Lamed Hey Yud. Aleph Lamed Hey is the word Allah, meaning to deify. But it's also the word that means these. And the Yod suffix means my. So he's saying these are my these. I'll go back to the beginning. Amer la Yahweh machasi ve ma Zodti alehi avtech bo. I will meditate and I will declare that Yahweh has provided me a shelter. By the authority of his voice who made the heavens and earth, he showed me these pictures in the Hebrew letters that we can have victory and success coming out of out the other side of this quarantine, just like Yeshua resurrected, just like Israel's going to come out, just like Yonah came out. And though there's a hunting net that's trying to capture me, if I'm captivated by his charming and enticing fortress of his words and letters, these that he declared on oath, I am absolutely confident, and I will put forth tet-chet, an exacting effort like at a grinding mill. Tet-chet-hey is a grinding mill. To calculate the exact distance like you're shooting a bow and arrow. You've got to consider the wind, you've got to consider what's going on in the temperature, especially if you're a sniper, shooting a rifle, all these considerations, and you got to get the exact target center, bullseye. Those words are also in other sentences here, other verses. That's here. And then the last word, bet vav, in him, it says, I will in him, but it's translated in you. And it's like, well, the vav suffix, that's third person. Either him or there, first, second person or third person. What I'm saying is that you'll hear different ways to interpret these letters according to a certain grammar. If you sit there and study each letter, whether you know the grammar literately or not, as you ponder, as you meditate, by putting in this great effort to think that each letter is a promise, that Yahweh is a vote, the maker, the creator, the most high, El Shaddai, the omnipotent one, the almighty, that he established these things so that those who choose to be his people can return to these words, though these words were hidden and sealed for nearly 3,000 years, ever since at least the time of Daniel 500 BC, because the people had already thrown him aside, which is why they got overrun, so it goes back even further. So he gave us these words about 1500 BC in the days of Moshe, and they've been lost to most of humanity. This is an incredible occasion that we have these words available. And if we put the effort, like at a grinding mill, grinding grain around and around, whether you've got an oxen walking on it or you got a couple stones, the point is, you got to grind the wheat before eating. And you're the one who has to consume this for you to receive the strength. And if you can find any charm or enticing, captivating, alluring, that you would return to Yahweh for the sake of these words. We're trying to present these words that they're attracted enough that you will personally take the effort to do that. And so what's the big deal? I'm going to jump ahead real fast, keep this video short. So we're going to make another video in a couple minutes, but I'm going to go ahead to this verse 14. And the last three words are, because he knows my name. You see, the promises of Psalm 91 are to the one that knows the name of Yahweh. Ki yada shemi, kaf yod, thus, therefore, because, when, while, in which case, although. All those are definitions of the word kaf yod. And kaf yod is like him holding up his hand. It's an open hand. That's the letter kaf. And the suffix yod means my. It's like, I swear by my hand, is basically what he's saying. Yod dalet ayin. He knows, or he will know, K-N-O-W, Shin Mem Yod, my name. But the name is also fame, renown, and reputation. What's the fame, renown, and reputation of Yahweh? He gave us the seventh day Shabbat, and he says, when you stop working on that day, because I said so, because I'm the creator of the heavens and the earth, as per Genesis chapter 1, I built it in 6 days, and I rested the seventh. And so when you stop working on the seventh day, that means you're recognizing me. Any other day, any other matter, it's a different God, a different Elohim. Could be anybody. There's many gods who claim to have invented this place, but none of them grab a hold of the seventh day and says, this is the sign that we're acknowledging Yod He Vav He Zavot Elohim, Yahuwah, who have established his identity by each one of the alphabet letters, is what the meaning of the word Savot is. Zadibet is to beautify, to stand and put in the place of Aleph Vav Tav. Aleph Vav Tav happens to mean a letter of the alphabet. Zadi Bet Aleph means army, legion, or host. A military array. So you could say he arranged the letters of the alphabet like a military array. He's the admiral surrounded by his fleet of the letters. All these are pictures that I found embedded in numerous Hebrew words, numerous verses that I'm assimilating into this little talk. And the thing is, we're going to end this in just a moment. The thing is, if we regard these letters as Yahweh's declaration of himself, for us to find peace, for us to have shalom, it's in the very specific purpose of an occasion like this quarantine. Tomorrow, Monday, Moon Day, as some say, the stock market just might collapse, not only in the United States, but across the face of the earth. We might be in for some very disturbing, troubling, and or catastrophic times. Nobody knows. Maybe will, maybe won't. The point is to have a perfect peace of mind, to set your mind at ease. You ponder Yahuwah's words. Everything else pales. And it just doesn't matter. Well, it does matter, but somehow there's a refuge in pondering Yahweh's words. And I'm saying that verse 14 of Psalms 91 is the qualifier. Because he knows my name. And the way to know his name is to return to his words. So anybody can try to pick up Psalm 91 and find comfort. Go ahead and do it. I'm not saying it's exclusive, but I'm saying that David, if David wrote this, or Yahweh himself, by saying, because he knows my name, that's the exclusivity right there. If you want to know the Shem of Yahuwah, it's in knowing these 22 letters, validated, correlated to the Mishkan pattern. The 7 days of creation in Genesis 1, the design and construction of the tabernacle, Exodus 25 and following, the Moedim, the festivals of Yahweh, including the Shabbat and the seven engagements of feasting in Leviticus 23, and then the story of the coming here of Yeshua being Mashiach in the Gospels of the New Testament. And then there's hundreds of other places where I've found validation of the same pattern, including Daniel 12 that we've talked about before. We could talk about it again. But the point being, Yahweh's Shem is the place where there's peace, the place where there's security, because you know his name. And if you don't know his name, if you have a different Elohim, if you have a different story, if you have a different regard, well, good luck. God. The fortune of luck, the deity of fortune and luck is God. Good luck is to say God, and it's like you're on your own. There's a place where we could get to this in another, I think it's in Isaiah 29, where Yahweh says, listen, I gave you the truth, speaking to Israel, and you didn't want it. You wanted the deities of your neighbors who didn't have the truth, the Assyrians, the Egyptians, the Canaanites. And he says, tell you what, I offered you the truth, I offered you protection, and I still offer it to those who engage me, those who want to walk hand in hand with me, those who want to seek me with all their heart. With all your heart and soul means your mind and your intent and your emotion and your craving and your longing and your yearning desire. Those are words used of a certain word in Psalms 91 we'll get to in the next video. But the point is, if it's not worth that kind of effort, it's hidden and sealed. And you can think you're finding it, you can pretend you find it, you can hope you find it, but you may not have found it. You're on your own. He said he's going to withdraw, and he says, go let your gods help you. They're not there. They don't exist. But you make idols? Go let your idols help you. I'm out of here. That's what he said a number of times, numerous times. Oh, he'll never leave me. But you might have the wrong him. You might have the wrong Elohim. If it's not the guy that lines up with this pattern of with the one who created the earth in 7 days, resting on the seventh, the one who designed the Mishkan, telling Moshe how to do it, the one who gave us his Moedim, his testimonies and witnesses of his identity and intent, and the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, who gave us Yeshua HaMashiach. You got the wrong deity. Well, see you on the other side of weathering this storm. Hopefully, maybe.
We're going to do this in 2 parts, brother?
We'll do another part.
Okay.
Starting to get dark. We can go in.
Yeah. All right.
So that's a couple verses of Psalm 91 anyway.
All right.
See you a little bit later.
Hallelujah.